Oh, okay.
So yeah, and we can get into those topics as well.
Oh my God, I'm
It's
so happy right now. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're live on YouTube.
Yay.
Hey everybody.
From Telegram. This is great.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I use this piece of software called OBS, which just lets me broadcast my what's on my computer to YouTube, and so I can just basically have whatever's here and broadcast it to YouTube, which is pretty
Oh,
great.
okay. That's
So
amazing. And it's on your channel. You just connect it to your channel.
hmm
Oh my God, I'm so happy right now. Thank you.
yeah. So we were just y'all were just discussing the vaccines and whether or not there are some good ones or the repercussions that people are having and what's going on with things like shedding and affecting other people and things of that nature. So just kind of what I've shared within the group and what I'm staying consistent with is, we're all receiving exactly what we need in order to learn and grow from. And we kind of have to take a step back and look at the larger picture and know that there there is no one size fit all solution to anything. And so with the vaccines, I do think that the majority of the sort of long lasting damaging like euthanizing effects have been taken out, but there's also free will within this creation, and there's also people get to do what they want. And if there's enough information out there that says these vaccines are damaging people and they're hurting people and they're experimental and all these sorts of things that we've all known, and that's been the case with vaccines forever, but we've all known this. And if people still choose to ignore all of that and still choose to go do that, it's the same as if someone goes to eat a hot dog, like they can know all of the damage that they're doing to their body. They can know all of the gunk that's in the hot dog and how it's like just ground up shit, but they still choose to eat it. That's on them. And it's the same sort of free will choice that we have to acknowledge and respect. And even with those whom we love and care for, we can't really get in between them and those choices because when we try and like it's manipulation. If I'm trying to manipulate someone into not doing what they freely want to do, I am infringing upon God's laws. I am infringing upon natural law, and therefore I am going to be one that suffers. Not them. I mean, they will too for different reasons, but it's hard because we look around and we see those we love and they're suffering because of their own choices, but there's nothing that I can do about that other than continue to stand in the truth, to share it with whomever is willing to listen and 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 just shine brightly. And the more brightly that I shine, the more people are going to be curious about, what I'm doing and my choices and all those other sorts of things. But I can't really do anything further than that. So does that kind of answer
Oh,
initial
oh,
questions?
absolutely. And just so you know, I totally agree with you. I mean, like, I totally agree. I just feel like it's really sad. I've never seen such a mass. None of us have, right? Obviously, but we've seen things like addiction or whatever, and the classic, like, you can only do so much, etc. And it's really sad if you have a family member who's just killing themselves. And but now we're watching as like our entire communities are committing mass suicide. Almost it feels like, and I mean, I already went through the initial like outrage and crying and feeling like I'm losing everybody, like, and a lot of us were very upset. I'm in a very I'm in the Bay Area and liberal. It feels like everyone here, all the health food stores are the worst
Right.
with their gloves and their stuff they make you put on your. It's unbelievable. It's been the shock of my life to see my own community go full, retard, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
these are my friends and family, and it's just, I feel like for me personally, my journey has been about, I guess I need to do a lot more work or inner searching because how could I be so, how did I not see this? I didn't see it happening through my holistic world. Let me put it that way, right, Justin? So, like, a lot of us who have woken up that I know are saying that to each other. Like, we know chiropractors, we know other nutritionists, we know naturopaths, we know that are, doing this and promoting it.
Yeah, I mean it's like the COVID, when you really look at it, was perfect for what we needed. It was exactly what we needed to illustrate
Wake us up.
and
Yeah.
illuminate and wake up and really take all of the layers off of everyone and see who was consumed by fear, who was consumed by lies and all of these sorts of things. So yeah, it is disconcerting to see it happen and to have people that you trust and think that they were on the right path for holistic reasons and whatever else. But at the end of the day, if that's rooted in that fear of, the division and this sort of identity politics of, only believing things because you're told a certain way or whatever else, then it's not the truth. It's not the truth at all. And we can have aspects of the truth, and there are, it's a spectrum for everything of how close we are to it. But me personally, done with I am done with I guess settling for anything less than the full truth, the whole truth, everything. Everything has to be completely holistically the truth. And if there's any layer to it that's not the truth, and if there's anyone who is not okay with a layer that is not the full truth, then, I love you, but it's not for me. You're not for me. And we've all, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I feel that we all should be going that route. And so COVID was perfect to show the regions where, like, the cities and states and regions and wherever that are so far gone into this fear-based illusory concept. And so each of those regions is experiencing the exact karmic repercussions of this sort of abdication of this sort of moving away from the truth, and it's painful because it has to be, and it has to be to get people to realize, like, how far gone we were. And fortunately, it's gonna come to a point where the whole thing is going to be exposed as a lie, and it's designed to get all of these people who were just so strongly in favor of masks and wearing them all the time. They're going to be so pissed off when they find out that that was all for fake. They're going to be so angry when they find out that these vaccines were pushed and all of these people were making money and everything was fake, and how this was. And it's supposed to be that way because it has to be this this flip. There has to be
Right.
something
Right.
that jars them so much. And
Right.
for those who are more aware and are further along the spectrum towards the truth, it's going to be less and less painful. And the further along you go, the less painful it's going to be in that transition. So everything is just, it's perfectly balanced, it's perfectly exactly where it needs to be. But yeah, it sucks to be a part of, when we're in it. And my only suggestion would just be maybe get out of that, get out of that
Yeah.
quickly.
Oh, I know, totally. Well, and it's hard because, well, sorry, I'm hogging the
Oh, you're fine.
conversation. If anybody else, I was just gonna say, what's been hard for me anyway is I feel like it's so fluid. Like, places I thought I wanted to go, I was like, oh, that didn't feel good. Like, that doesn't feel good at all. And um, so it's just about where it feels good to me, And um, I don't know. It's just, I mean, I used to live in Hawaii, and so nothing on the mainland feels good. Nothing compared to being outside every day, all day, and eating fresh food every day. Like, literally. And it's never felt right since Hawaii. But it's not like I don't think I can go back there because they're pretty cabal. So
Right.
I'm not getting the vaccine. I just can't go back there. So that's over. So
Yeah, well, that's why it's so beautiful to have a community like this where we can all talk about these kind of things and not feel so isolated and alone. But even looking at the periods of isolation and feeling that sort of aloneness, if you take a big picture perspective of those instances, so I really like looking at it feels like I'm the only one, like it's common theme for everyone. It feels like I'm the only one in my area. I don't know anyone else who sees this.
Right.
I don't know anyone. I can't talk to anyone physically. And so if you look at that, it's like God strategically placed all of us to be exactly spaced out, exactly where we need to be, so that when all of this does start to be uncovered, we are already in the perfect location, interacting with the perfect people who need to hear it from us, who need to have someone that they can trust more so to come to when all of this truth starts to come out and they're like, what the fuck is going on? They'll have you. They'll have you to come to and not that you have to be there physically, but they'll have known you because you were there physically and and that's the perfect opportunity for them. So everything is perfect in that regard. And then another layer to it is this whole time period has been great for us in our spiritual growth because it has forced us into this isolation where we have started to go through this baptism of fire where all of our relationships that don't serve us are peeling away, where, all of these relationships that we thought were real turned out to be fake and and it's allowing us to have more time where we can go within and really do that spiritual growth because that has to be the foundation. We can't be relying on external relationships and stimuli to get anywhere because that's always going to be there's always going to be a dead end at some point or another. And so this is something that's really forcing us to get into that space and we can either grow stronger or play the victim and grow weaker within it, but we wouldn't have been given as much of an opportunity to grow stronger within it without sort of being forced into that isolation. So it's all perfectly arranged. It's all absolutely necessary. It doesn't make it easy. Like it's definitely not an easy thing to go through. Don't get me wrong on that, but it makes so much sense because we're being prepared for this next chapter, which is when the shit does hit the fan and everything does start to come out. We're already going to have gone through the ringer. We chose to go through the hard part ahead of time and space it out a little bit more. Whereas everyone else who has been asleep and has chosen to stay that way, they're going to be going through hell. Like they are going to be going through the worst possible thing that they could possibly imagine as they watch their entire world crumble in front of them in a very short amount of time. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what we're being prepared for is to help them to be those beacons of strength to stand within that and to be ready for action in that. So again, it's all perfect. Like you just got I love looking at things from a big picture perspective because when you do, like if I get really caught in the weeds and I just zoom out, if it still seems like bad or whatever, just zoom out further. Just keep going out. Just keep zooming out until you see it. It's all perfect. Everything is absolutely perfect as it needs to be. So I hope that makes sense.
Oh, thank you. No, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I agree. I think I'm just hearing it from you right now is perfect. It's just perfect.
Well, it is perfect. Yeah, and you inspire. Thank you for inspiring this live because I wasn't sure if I was going to do it today. I was kind of working on some other things, but I'm glad that I'm glad that you inspired me and I always love taking those divine nods of inspiration to do things. So thank you for prompting that and thank you for being here and sharing vulnerably. It takes a lot of strength to do that. So definitely acknowledge yourself for that.
Oh, thanks, Justin. Yeah, and I'm just glad. I couldn't believe we were having a conversation because that's the one thing I wanted, right? And that's really what my question was like, how do we get into conversation with you guys, if at all? Where do we all connect? So it worked out.
It's perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
Justin, so wait, sorry. How do I know? Do I just subscribe to your channel and then obviously get the notifications and know when the lives are? Or do you have a regular live on YouTube or how do
Yeah.
we
So I post everything on Telegram. So if you want to use that as a way, definitely you can stay updated on there. You can find me on Facebook. If you need the link to my link tree, which I believe should be in the show notes of, well,
Got it.
I can post it in Telegram again if you can't find it. But on my link tree, but it's got my
Let me
Facebook,
do that.
Telegram, MeWe. You can, if you just, I think, I think to join the email list on Buy Me a Coffee, it just requires one contribution, and then you get email updates that way. Um,
Okay.
so there's a wide variety of ways to do that. But yes, I post everything. Marie on Facebook, especially Marie will tag me for her postings and let people know. Charlie does a good job on MeWe posting everything, and again on their Buy Me a Coffee. If I think if you just do one contribution, you get all the email updates for that. Um, so there are lots of ways to stay up to date. But yeah, as soon as Facebook and YouTube cut us off. So what Alex was saying earlier is that she kind of lost us in January when Charlie got axed from everything. So it's good to see the family like coming back and finding us again. And we'll get to that point when we have a platform where that's not out trying to silence us, and we're already planning and figuring out how we're going to do that. But it's gonna be pretty magnificent because we're just gonna have everyone, everyone who wants to and is willing and has something to share to come on and share stuff and make like a proper Freak Sense TV of just all sorts of good stuff. Actually, I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Okay, I just messaged you on Facebook so you know who I am.
Great.
That's my real name. Okay. Um, great. So now I've got connection. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, did you have any other questions or comments or anything? Or we can pass it on.
I have so many, but other people can ask if they had them or comments.
Okay. Yeah, we can pass it and then come back to if you got any more. So I do want to honor anyone who has never been on to one of these Telegram chats to have an opportunity to speak first. And then we can get into, I see we've got some regulars on here too. So is anyone on here for the first time that would like to jump in and share something or ask something? And to speak, you just have to unmute yourself. You can hold the button or you can tap it to unmute it.
I've got a question for you, JC.
Yeah, what's up?
So, I guess I consider myself pretty awake. I've been awake for several years. I grew up in the military, so, I know when I came back to the United States from overseas, I could see, I could really see the difference, and so, I kind of just grew up awake, knowing that, things were different, from before when I left. Anyways, so I've been following Q for years, ever since he came out, 3.5 years ago or whatever.
Hmm.
And I think it's really interesting. It's it is really interesting. But uh, uh, I've been on Zeta Talk, and they've been doing a lot of talking about Nibiru. What do you think about that? Are they just you think that they're distracting us
Yes.
from paying attention to that, or what?
Yes. Yeah. So it goes and depending on how experienced you are with Charlie Freak's work or what we've discussed, but basically anything that alludes to outer space and any of that is and aliens and all of that is all a distraction because we live on a level stationary plane and we're protected by the firmament. And this is there's countless ways that you can prove this and there's countless ways that you can look at this, but the grand conspiracy of them all, the thing that ties all conspiracies together and loops them all together, everything in organized society is designed to take us away from the path within, to go within so that we can connect with God. They want to get us away from ourselves, away from God as far as possible. So anything that involves like planets and aliens and all timelines and manipulated DNA and all that kind of stuff is all to just make us seem like were powerless beings that could be abducted at any moment or could be wiped out at any moment or need like a savior alien race to come get us or whatever else. And it's the same with organized religion as well, you know, that we have to rely on an external savior that somehow Jesus Christ is going to come do it. But Jesus never talked about that. He talked about the internal journey. He talked about going within and being your own savior, activating your Christ consciousness from within. And so again, everything from organized society is designed to take us out of that and away from that true path. And so with the Nibiru stuff and all of that, you know, I used to subscribe to the alien stuff and was fascinated by it. But the more that I looked into it and the more that I realized that there was never any real substance to it. It was all just talk and hearsay. And even people who said they had firsthand experience, like you find out that they are questionable to some degree or another. And so yes, I mean, short answer, like all of that is a distraction to take us away from what's going on here and now. Um, and that is that we are the pinnacle of God's creation on this level stationary plane, and the whole point of this creation, the whole point of this existence is for us to remember ourselves, to rediscover ourselves, and to go and onto this inward path, regenerate, to revitalize, and then to return home, which is where God is. So to experience duality on this physical plane and to return to singularity with God. So there and back again. That's, you know, we were in the Garden of Eden in singularity. We left it for the purpose of experiencing the duality, experiencing the physical. We get to experience the physical as long as we want, and then we return to singularity. That's the whole point of this creation, is for us to ascend and grow and learn. Um, but yeah, I hope that makes sense and hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. I appreciate it, man. So even though it talks about it in the Bible or Planet Wormwood, or I mean, is that just a part of the Bible that's been written by
It's
man or?
so the Bible's not meant to be taken literally. It's all allegorical representation of our internal journey. So basically, you take the Bible and you change the name to your name. Take every character in the book and change it to your name, and it's basically your journey between your left brain and your right brain, between
That's
God,
awesome, dude.
God and Satan. You know, Satan is not a real entity, but it's just the absence of God. So when we fall away from God, we are worshiping Satan. You know, we're going that path. But when we're stepping into our highest self and being of service to others, when we're walking the path that Jesus laid, we are going towards God. And so the Bible, every story within it is just another way to represent this spiritual practice and the spiritual journey that we're on. And it even gets deeper than that. And a lot of the Bible is very much it is it can be more literal in the sense, but it's talking about our human physiology and talking about this raising of the chrism oil, which is this sacred secretion that comes from our colostrum in our brain, goes down to our sacrum, and then it slowly rises up. And if we complete this is the same as the Kundalini rising that they speak of in Eastern practices. But if we're able to achieve this full rising, then it reaches our third ventricle of the brain, where the pineal, the pituitary, and the hypothalamus release these three sacred secretions: the serotonin, melatonin, dopamine. And that's how we live in eternal bliss. That's how we create heaven on earth. And so it's like it's wild, because when you start to decode the Bible on all these different layers, you find out that it's talking about this physiological aspect within ourselves, and that's why they are so desperate to hide this truth from us. And that's why Jesus talks about the Pharisees, the scribes, Pharisees, and lawyers, and speaks of them with such disdain, because all they do is they distort the true meaning of the Bible. They teach it to people literally so that they never uncover the true aspects within. But Jesus always talked about how he spoke in parables, because for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, they are going to get it, but it keeps it away from those who aren't ready for it. So with the wormwood, we actually just got into that aspect in Revelation in our Bible Decode series, which if you haven't seen, I'd highly recommend. It's a great one to get into a lot of these layers of the Bible, and it's like no other Bible study you've ever been to, for sure. But wormwood was mentioned, and wormwood is a very bitter, it's very bitter when you taste it. So I believe, and I can't remember exactly, there was so much covered in this last episode, but I believe this was related to the sort of truth that's uncovered within Revelation, so the revealing. So when regular everyday people experience this truth, it's going to be very bitter to them because it's very powerful. And so that's what's referenced with wormwood. It's not a planet or anything else, but it's just an allegorical representation of that bitterness that we can experience when we experience like an uncomfortable truth that so many of us have and so many of us will.
That's awesome, brother. Well, I do enjoy listening to y'all's content. I watch you guys on with Charlie Freak, and so appreciate all the information, man.
Y-
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for hopping on. I appreciate you joining us. Glad to have you.
Okay, brother. All right, man. Thanks.
All right. Um, so is there anyone else who has not spoken before that would like to chime in? I think I might recognize.
I
Yeah.
just have a question. I follow you guys all the time, but I haven't spoken on this live. I'm usually in the chat, but I'm under my first middle name and last name, so it looks different. But I had a question too about, mainly because I'm not watching and I haven't watched TV for years, mainstream media and movies and all that, but getting stuff through news, stuff through Telegram earnings, and I've noticed some true this well, through Telegram. Basically, like, it's kind of interesting. I'm finding only Charlie's covering about like the real history of like the world wars and like Hitler, and I
Hmm.
think it's fascinating that we're learning the real history about it. I mean, and I just, even some of the truthers are saying things like, "Oh, Hitler," like they'll just make a comment, and I'm thinking, I just wonder if that's kind of another thing to throw us off, or do they not know yet? Do they not have the level of awareness yet? Have they researched it, or is it just trying to throw us off?
Uh,
If
I,
that makes sense.
yeah, it's hard to say what someone's intentions are. Like, we can't always know what their intentions are, but we can know what the truth is, and anything that's not the truth is a lie. So even if someone's intentions aren't to be misleading,
Yeah.
if they are pushing out lies, it's still a lie. And we still need to acknowledge that. And personally, I choose to not entertain or even follow people that are still pushing lies, regardless of what their intentions are.
That's what I've been doing lately. I've been really getting better at discerning, and then I'm like, wow, this just does not resonate. And it's like, why? It's just something I've done that my whole life. I wouldn't really listen to it, even though I'd have that, my our intuition. I would just kind of not pay attention to that. And now I'm really following that. And I was just curious about all this because I just want to know the absolute truth and only the absolute truth, because that's God, when you're
Right,
like full truth and nothing but the truth. I
right.
mean, that statement is so true. But it's like, I mean, anything else then like, I know Charlie talks about it too. It's like, that's what I don't want to be on that slippery slope. We have to know the whole truth.
Exactly. Yeah, well said. And that discernment that you're growing, that's exactly why they poison us with all these toxins. They steer us away with all these lies because they don't want anyone to have this personal empowerment. They don't want anyone to be able to discern. So they keep us always flipped upside down. They invert the truth with everything. They convince us that we're on this spinning ball floating in space at millions of miles an hour so that we never feel like we're able to be still and silent, because as soon as we go within, as soon as we start to do the work, as Charlie talks about, the game is up. The game is over for them. The jig is up. Like they can't do this anymore. No one can lie to us anymore. And that's why it's so vital. And that's why I so resonate with Charlie's teachings, because he's giving solutions. He's not asking for anything for him. He's just like, this is the solution to it all, to where no one can lie to you anymore. And so you doing that is just showing you how much deception, and those deceptions have always been there, but it's showing you how much there is. And people will come to the truth in their own time. So I wouldn't uh, with like with the Hitler thing, like that is a huge one that people are still like it's going to take a while for people to get fully wrapped around that one. And same thing with the level Earth. Like that's a big one. But so I wouldn't necessarily like again, I don't think most people's intentions are to mislead, but we do have to get very clear on what the truth is and only encouraging and supporting those who do speak the full truth. And it's very it's a very small number when you start getting down to it. And that's why Charlie, I mean, it cracks me up every time he does, but that's why he goes on those little rants about how everyone's a fucking liar. 'Cause-
It's true. So it's like the more you doubt things, the more like it's just more and more narrow. It's exactly like he says, you
Mhm.
know.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's supposed to be that way because it's supposed to be like kind of difficult. And because if it was easy, if everyone was just there, then the reward at the end wouldn't be as wouldn't be as sweet. So it's supposed to be challenging. Like this is all supposed to be very challenging, and there's no like wrong way to go about it. There is right and wrong from a moral standpoint, and there's truth and lies, but there's no experience wasted. So anyone who's experiencing a lie and living a lie, they're going to get their just reward and learn and grow from that in exactly the way that they need to. But I'm choosing I'm choosing the full truth. I'm choosing to let go of my ego so that I can see the full truth at all times. And it's a daily process. It's a daily practice. It never ends. But when you have that commitment, and you have that resolve, like it just gets better and better and better. And that's what makes it so exciting, is it there's no limit to it. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Really exciting.
yeah, great question though. And I would just say that there's no need to create conflict when there doesn't need to be, but we also do need to find that space where we do stand strongly within the truth and call out lies wherever they are. So if you have an opportunity and you see something that is a lie, or somebody asks you something or whatever else, like call it out. Like that's what Jesus did, and that's what we're called to do as well. As we've got to be highlighting the truth, because the longer that the more that we sort of refrain from doing that kind of stuff, the longer that the sort of uncomfortable transition period is going to be. Because essentially, the more effort that we can put into portraying the truth, the full truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is for us to talk about and put out there, the quicker we get through this sort of like icky period in between. Because it is going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of work I mean, we've got an entire society, an entire world that's just based on lies. So it's going to take a lot to right the ship, for everyone. But I'm excited to do that as well, and we're doing it. That's what we're doing. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. Did you have any other questions or comments or anything?
No, I feel really good about just every day, like I was saying, tuning into you guys, and I just feel such a connection, and I'm just, learning, and I'm just so thrilled about it. I'm just so happy to be here and a part of this awesome family, and it's just, this is where I know it's right for me, and I'm just grateful. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Justin, too.
You're welcome. All right. Is there anyone else who has not spoken before, that would like to share?
I'd like to share.
Yeah, go
Hi,
for it.
Justin.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well, very good. I'm from Switzerland. I've been listening to you all since, I don't know. I've been listening to Santos and Charlie for 3 years, and I'm a creator. Like I do comedy, and I had a long struggle with my management and everything, and now you gave me this courage like a week ago to cut off my management, and now I'm speaking the truth on my channel, and and it's awesome. It's I didn't think it would be that simple.
It is, the truth is so simple.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was so afraid because because everybody was telling me they're gonna kill you. You have to be afraid. You have to be careful and everything. But it's you just have to know it's really really helpful. You and Charlie, how you said it, like I think yesterday or in the last Bible study, that was the last push, and I just had like this 10-minute rant on my Instagram, and so many people showed up like who were like, "Hey, you're right,"
Nice.
and I didn't think that it would be that much people who would listen, and I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your service. I mean,
And thank you.
that's activating your throat chakra. And, when you clear the throat, when you cross the
Mm,
fiction, that's such a powerful step. It's such an incredibly powerful step to do, and it's scary. It's scary to do it at first, but bravo for doing it. And you see the rewards are built in, and people receive it because people are hungry. People are ready for the truth, like truly.
yeah, I was just waiting that somebody else does it in Switzerland because we have so many. I know some other comedians who know the truth about like almost as much as we do, but they just don't want to leave the comfort zone. And yeah, but I had you guys, and you pushed me to this edge, and this is it was great. Thank you. I just wanted to say that.
That means a lot to hear. That means a lot to hear for sure. Thanks for sharing that, brother. And it's yeah, it's so comforting. I'm truly honored to share this space with you and all of this incredible family of people who are just ready to get this thing rolling. Like
Yeah,
it's time to not be passive anymore. We've been patient, and it's not that you have to go out seeking conflict or sharing in a way where it's creating turmoil, but we do have to be standing firmly in the truth and just really, really be speaking loudly and powerfully and roaring like lions. That like in the Bible study we talked about laying down as the
yeah.
lamb, the sacrifice of the lamb, and then emerging as the lion. That's the reward that we get when we lay down our ego and we're saying, okay, I'm ready, God. Where do you want me to go today? How do you want to use me in the best way possible? And at that point, we're always led to that space of abundance. We're always led to that
Wow,
space of just maximum potential. It always works.
wow. Yeah, that's what I felt. And with the fruits, it's just you can't do anything else because it's just the fruits that's talking to you. It's like you have to get this out of your system by talking. Like
Yeah,
this energy, I don't know. It's just so much energy that's it's not just physical, but it's really the voice, the expressing this inner soul that has just to, I don't know, talk. And yeah, I'm just uh, I'm just gonna keep on going and spreading your word and telling people to come to your page. But like the most of the people that listen to me are like the ones that didn't listen to in class. Like they don't understand English, so I have to tell them in Swiss German.
yeah. Well, hopefully we can get yeah, hopefully we can get, I mean, more people like yourself to start. Yeah, I mean that's what we're all needed for, is to share the truth in our own way for those that need to hear us. So thank you for that. Thank you for doing that as well, because that's a huge help. We certainly don't have any translators on the team.
Yeah, I thought that I saw some Swiss people in the group, but I didn't yet connect with them.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but I did make I just recently reposted it again, but there's a link to where you can fill out a form, which just asks you what the nearest major city is to you. And then it shows a big spreadsheet there's another link that and all that feeds to a spreadsheet where it just shows where everyone is to help kind of
Ah,
connect with people. So I just posted that maybe like 10 or so messages back in the group. So if you can find that and you can
okay.
check the spreadsheet and see where people are in the world.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I just wanted to ask, is it okay that I used your links in my link tree too, some of your great movie links, because I told my followers to watch those films because so many stuff is just I really watched so many of your films you have in there over and over, and it's always the same story, like you say, like Charlie says, and like Adolf Hitler and all those links you have, those films. Is it okay?
Wait, what do you mean? Is it okay?
Like if I took him in my link tree too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
Okay,
doesn't bother me. Yeah, for sure. Please share them far and wide.
okay, thank you.
I mean, who knows who knows what will happen, but I don't care. Like I think information should be free whatsoever and for forever and always. So I trust that. But yeah, go for it.
And thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
That's
brother.
all for me.
Thanks for hopping on. All right. Is there anyone else who has not spoken before? We've had a lot of new people today, which is great. Anyone else who's not spoken before that would like to chime in? All right, let's open it up to people who have spoken before. Who's got something to share, question, or want to chime in on something?
Hi, Justin. Gary here.
Hey, Gary, welcome back, brother. Good to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was on the very first
Yeah, I remember.
gram. Yeah, right on. Thanks again for all you guys do.
Yeah, of course.
I missed some parts because there were some glitches here, but maybe you spoke about it already. Someone was talking about being alone, which all of us are battling with. We seem to be few and far between, and there's a lot of zombie peeps around getting the shots and bragging about it, and I did hear you. I think I heard you say to get out of there. If I was you, I'd get out of there as soon as you can, not in an alarming way, but move south or something. And I question would be, I live in cold climate Canada and Ontario, which is really going crazy right now. Do we really need to leave? And the reason I say that is because I understand that big changes are coming, and it's going to rock people's world. Level Earth, Hitler, pharma, evil pharma, corrupt governments, etc. But also, good things are coming. No middleman necessary to our health. Just be mostly frugarian and all that good stuff. Med beds, etc. New forms of energy, magnetic or whatever it's probably magnetic, unlimited, clean and free. So the question comes, do we really need to leave? Because first of all, people are going to need our help. And second of all, we can build these nice, large, beautiful greenhouses and grow all our own fruit here and then still travel at our option in our flying vehicles or whatever it is that's coming down the pipeline and easily get wherever we want to go, Mexico, Antarctica, or wherever, right? So that's the question. Do we really need to get out of Dodge? And I'm open to it because my wife, who's an academic and educated, left brain and whatnot, but she's really come around to the other side very quickly over the last few months, and I was surprised because I didn't know if she would. She's been saying lately, yeah, let's move to Mexico or someplace warm, and I'm like, do we really need to leave right now? Like that's my question basically, and I'm not sure if you have any insight to that or understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that it's really a question of how quickly you want to get there, because you know, if you're I do think there's going to be things that come out that make this a lot easier to, you know, power and have greenhouses and make it easy to grow things everywhere. And there's certainly ways to improve wherever you are. But personally, I just want to be in warmth all the time, and I want to be in a climate of people that are fully on board with the full truth and not wait for everyone else to kind of catch up in that regard. You know what I mean?
So on that note, though, these people are going to need our help, and
Yeah,
we're here because we're awake and we're able to guide them. Number one, number two, if we have this, when we have this energy, because it's been a peeve of mine not having this type of energy because I know it exists. We'll be able to create these warmth areas and still at the same time travel could even be even ways of traveling we don't even think about now through a portal or through these underground tunnels that will become of our service and not to our detriment, stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, everyone has like, you know, the whole point of gaining that clarity is everyone should be listening to God wherever He's leading them. So, you know, we should be going exactly to where that is. I can only speak for myself, and I would just say that as far as helping people deal with the sort of uncomfortable truths that come out, like that can be done from anywhere, and that can be done. Um, yes, being physically around people is helpful to some degree, but you can. I feel like the relationships that we've made are really that starting point to give people an opportunity to have someone in their lives that they can reach out to for that kind of information, because I'm not going to be physically going around to every single person that I've ever known to help them go through this process, but I will be a contact available to them regardless of where I am physically that they can reach out to sort of go through that process and have someone to ask questions to. But you know, there's no right or wrong answer for this. I just would rather be somewhere physically warm where I can grow all the fruit trees that I want without the need for any sort of technology or you know, greenhouses to where it's just naturally growing from the earth. And that's where I feel like a lot of people who are of the same mindset are going to be gravitating towards, which also is a huge aspect of what I want, which is a community of people who are all on the same page, who are leading in this, not waiting for everyone else to kind of catch up, you know, because I don't. It, I want to be that representation. I want to be that beacon to show people what's possible. And living in a city or near a city or in a um, it's just not going to get there very quickly. It's going to take a lot longer that way. But if you go somewhere, um, yeah, if you go to a rural area where you can build a community of like-minded individuals, then it happens a whole lot faster. Um, so that's kind of that. That's kind of my thoughts there. But again, there's no right or wrong. It's wherever you feel called and however you feel best to work, because everything is happening for us and to get us to go exactly where we need to go. And as long as we're listening, we're always going to be led to exactly the place where we need to be at exactly the right time.
Yeah, wherever you're called is probably the best response that I've heard. By the way, it's Canada is beautiful. It's a beautiful place, winter and summer. You know, if you're a skier, you get to the top of the mountains, and as Charlie was saying, top of the mountain is the place where you're closest to God. And it's kind of true. It's true. When you're up there, it's magnificent to be on the top of Whistler Mountain or wherever. So it's quite an experience. So the cold is not all that bad, but what, like you said, wherever you're called, wherever you feel comfortable is the right place for you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So and yeah, I have my watermelon seeds planted already. By the way, they're
Nice.
inside here growing and just waiting for another couple of weeks for the final frost.
Nice. That's awesome.
So thanks again.
Yeah.
I'll leave it to someone else.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Thanks for coming on. All right.
Hello.
Hey, Chrissy.
Hi. I was in the YouTube chat and I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm gonna jump over there and try
Thanks.
and hop on. I've watched you guys forever, right? Not forever. I didn't think I've been in this for forever, but I'm probably one of the late bloomers. And if I'm like totally off topic, I came into this kind of a little later in your conversation.
There's no,
Just
no
let
such
me
thing as,
know.
there's no such thing as off topic. It's wherever you want to take it.
Okay. I think maybe mine's gonna end with a question. So I feel like in this community, quote unquote, right, there's almost like there's a line in the sand between two groups. I don't know if that makes sense. There's like a side where you're listening and then you're hearing a lot of people talking about certain people on that truth or community.
Hmm.
And it makes it hard to try and listen to them sometimes, even though there's truth behind it. But maybe that's with everybody. There's truth behind something in everybody's message. But I find it hard when there's that line in that sand, and it's like, what do we do to bring everybody together? What do we do to stop
Well,
that pressure in the center? You know what I mean?
well,
What?
the pressure's only created because people have deviated away from the truth, and that's really the only thing that draws us all together in the pure holistic form is to stand strong within the truth. The truth is unifying, and Jesus spoke about this. The truth is the way for us all to come together. But unfortunately, there is a group of people who would prefer to live half truths and to follow and listen to people who only speak the truth sometimes and have ulterior motives. And if we, um, sorry, Chrissy, can you turn
That's
the
what got us here.
yeah, can you turn the TV down or something? Got a lot of background noise.
I'm gonna mute it while you talk. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Um, But so that's where that sort of illusion of separation has come from, where people are still wanting to straddle the line and say, "Oh, but this person, I like how they present things and they say the truth most of the time, but then, I'm just gonna turn away when they start to say things otherwise or whatever else." And when we do that, when we turn a blind eye to lies at any scale, then we're just allowing more of the darkness to take a foothold. And I'm not going to stand in that anymore. I'm not going to. I'm going to stand in the full truth, the whole truth, and anyone is welcome. Absolutely, anyone is welcome to stand in that with me. That is, and I encourage it, and I want that. But I'm not going to settle and yeah, like settle on that at all and how I come across or what I stand for. Because if I settle, if I become complacent within that, then I'm just allowing lies to perpetuate and I'm done with that.
Right. Um, I was hearing you guys talking about like moving south to like the warmer, and I've been having this like strange call to like Joshua Tree, and I don't even know much about Joshua Tree.
It's
It
beautiful.
just it's a park in Arizona, right? Like,
Hmm.
or it's an area in Arizona. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's in California, Southern California, I believe. But
Really?
it's beautiful. It's a beautiful region.
Yeah. I was thinking it was in Arizona. Arizona has always been the goal for me to go.
Yeah,
We have plants. I heard you guys.
it's on the border
Go
of
ahead.
Arizona and California. It's kind of near Sedona and kind of near the Grand Canyon kind of area, but it's really
Hmm.
pretty all over that region.
Right now, I live about 20 minutes away from DC. We took a drive over there for the first time since like maybe since the poop hit the fan, maybe
Hmm.
since January, I guess I should say. We've been there since January, and it's weird. I don't know how any other way to put it other than weird being in that city and like knowing what we know about it now and like what's underneath.
Right.
It's almost, I don't know. It was trippy driving around and like seeing the police and the military and stuff like that. It's like you see the stuff on TV, right? And you see these people talking about it, but there are occasions where there's people in spaces that don't get to see it firsthand. So it's kind of hard to believe the truth when you don't see it, I guess. You're just hearing it from the mouth of other people, and you never know what to believe when you're watching the news anymore. I don't watch the news anymore. I try and find other ways to get that information, but
Mhm.
I don't know. It was just strange going there, and just I know that I need to get out of Maryland. It's as simple as that. I want to get away from DC because I just get this feeling in my heart, and I try not to live in the fear. But if something happens, it's going to happen here. You know what I mean? And something's going to happen eventually, bad. I
Well,
don't really feel
I,
like there's any way around that.
I wouldn't say that anything bad is going to happen. It's going to be jarring. It's going to be shocking, but there's nothing that's going to happen that's going to be detrimental to anyone, even in DC, because there's a lot of good people
Right.
that live there, and everything, everything is fully under white hat control. So it's all purposefully being done to piss people off, to get people activated, to wake them up to everything that's going on, and whatever they use to be that final push into the sort of where truth starts to come out, to where disclosure starts to happen. It's still not going to be anything that hurts anyone. It's just going to be very shocking. And I've seen lots of things floating around about there being like some sort of nuclear scare where they're going to have like a
Yes,
DEFCON.
that's exactly what I saw. That freaked me out. And you
Well,
know what I
but
mean?
don't get.
Talking about sniffers being in the water. I'm sorry, that's my son. He's a little
Oh,
crazy right now.
oh, it's okay. Don't get.
They
I
were talking
mean,
about the sniffers going up the water. You know what I'm saying? Sniffing out for some random nuke that has been shot up by a sub. And then that's when I started
yeah,
stopped watching that person.
but that's not going to be real. It's not a real event. It's going to
You're
be a
right.
contrived event, no, by the white hats to wake people up, to get them to pay attention, because there's got to be something that gets everyone to tune in to the same thing. And so an easy way to be like, oh shit, like I should pay attention. And then all of a sudden you find out, whatever else after that point. But there's going to be some sort of activating event, but there's nothing to fear because this is all God's plan and it is not going to hurt anyone on a large scale like that. There's not going to be any sort of cataclysmic event or anything of that nature. So don't.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. So yeah, don't fear. It's all good.
Maybe I don't know if this is even the right question to ask. Do you feel that it's okay to fear in your heart? Is that like a feeling you have?
So there's
Or is it like knowledge that you have
there's
outside of the feeling?
fear. Wait, did you say is it okay to feel or fear?
No, the reason that you have the word saying not to fear because it's going to be an event by the white hats that is totally controlled and is not going to really come to fruition. I guess that's kind of how I heard what you said,
Yeah,
that they're just doing it to scare people. Do
right.
you know that as a fact, as a knowledge, like a written fact, or do you know that because it's in your heart that tells you nobody's going to get hurt?
I know that absolutely because of my connection with God. I
Okay,
I know.
that's absolute the answer I was hoping for.
Yeah, yeah. I know that absolutely. No doubt in my mind. Um, but yeah, I mean, fear in general is even if like the cabal was in charge and they were gonna do if they were gonna do something horrible, it's fear is still not a thing to ever let come into your heart, because as soon as we let fear start to drive us, it doesn't help with anything. It doesn't gain us anything useful. It doesn't help us to figure out any problems or be logical or whatever. Fear is just this like it's this horrible driving mechanism that our ego uses to get us to be chaotic and all over the place. We can be we can be, like you can be aware and you can make rational decisions based on awareness and things of that nature, but fear is just it's like there is no use for it whatsoever. It does not gain We don't gain anything from it. It's a byproduct of a physiological remnant of our fight or flight symptoms from our animalistic reptilian brain. And when we let that cascade into the rest of our brain, into the rest of our mind, and consume our thoughts, it doesn't help us with anything. You know, it's like it's taking the reaction of, like, you know, you feel someone's about to take a swing at you and you see that coming. Like, yeah, you have that physical reaction where you should duck, and that can turn that still stems from that same thing that causes fear. But if you're conscious, then all you do is you duck, you respond appropriately, but you're not consumed with the fear. And so fear is just something to really let go of, because as we've talked about, like, you can't serve two masters. There's God and there's Satan, which is just the absence of God. And if we're not serving the love and the truth of God, then if we're in fear, then we're serving the other master, and we'll inevitably suffer because of that. And that's just kind of how it is. And it's all for our benefit to sort of steer us into the less fearful, less destructive, more harmonious, more loving, more uplifting and ascending path, instead of the fear, descent, you know, all of that sort of negative stuff that comes with it. So regardless of what's happening in the external world, let go of fear. But in that specific example, there's absolutely nothing to fear, because nothing is going to happen. Does that make
Right.
sense?
I just want to say thank you
Yeah.
also for like allowing other people to come into your world. I know that this isn't the first time you've done this. You do this on like often, right? This is the first time I've caught you.
Yeah, I try and do it about every week, at least every other week. But yeah, you're welcome. I'm
Definitely something I'd make sure to come back. But yeah, thank you. Definitely with gratitude, and thank you for everything you're doing and all the information that you're giving. It means so much to a lot of us out here that don't have a voice to talk.
yeah, well, thank you for saying that, and I would say thank you for coming on and sharing so vulnerably and asking authentically, because that kind of, like, you have no idea who else has had that same question, or who else had that same thing going on in their mind. So that helped, you know, by us all doing this, we're all able to learn and grow together. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service and coming on and doing it that way.
Absolutely have a million and one more questions, but I don't want to make you guys have to hear my son squeal, and it's definitely time to let somebody else have an opportunity. Oh, sorry.
All right, Chrissy.
Have a
Well,
great night, you
you
guys,
you
and
too.
God bless everybody.
Love you, sister. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Who else has got something they want to share, question on their heart?
Well, I just wanted to say hi from Germany, from Munich, Germany here.
Hey,
Munich.
Christian.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, brother.
All I wanted to say is to spread the truth is sometimes very hard, and but I always tell people that right now there's a struggle between light and darkness, but I see it more struggling between life and death. And I think, and I deeply believe that there is no opposite polar force to life, because death is not the end of life. Life just has different structures, just like water, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, it's just death is just the uh, absence of life in a way, but it's not even really, because you can't. I mean, it's like God. There's God, and then there's the absence of God. But there's really no such thing as full absence of God, because God is everything. And the same thing with life. I mean, death is just a part of life. You can't really have the absence of life, because life is consciousness, and we are all, consciousness is everything. This is all just consciousness in different forms. So yeah, well said. Well said.
But can I ask you one thing?
Of course. You can ask me several things.
What I was always wondering, because this Rome, this area that we live in, I don't even call it Earth, because I don't know actually where we really live in, and what's after the ice wall. But this Rome here that we live in, always, because Satan is they call like the prince of the air, and I was always wondering how deep this structure really is going. And because I think some people say right now we live in the end times. I don't really believe that we live in the end times because the Antichrist even hasn't come. So what kind of time we're really talking where we live right now?
Well, I do see it as the end times, but it's not the end of times. It's just the end of the Cabal's time. It's the end of that era of rulership of slavery. So their whole world, that whole illusory world of control is falling apart. It is going through its revelation. It is ending. But it is a new beginning as well, because it's a time where we get to make that ending choice and to truly step into to sort of level up and recognize who we are, that we are children of God, and that there's no one who can, there's no one that can subvert us. There's no one that can project authority over us. All of that is illusory. So we're going through this awakening process and realizing this so that we can step up and go through another iteration of this creation and activate our DNA in a whole bunch of different ways and play in this experience in a lot more vibrant and different kind of way than we have been. So that's kind of where I see where we are.
But even if the white hats really and the cabal in the material world, we still have the confrontation with the demonic spirits that still exist. So what about them?
Well, the demonic spirits are just they're just projections from our consciousness. We are the projectors of this reality. We are the pinnacle of God's creation here walking on this plane of existence. So demons are just a inner projection of a left brain of someone who's consumed with their left brain, and they manifest these demons and they do things physically. They can, because we are that powerful. We are that powerful manifestors in this reality. We are that powerful projectors. But there's no hierarchy above mankind. There's no like demons and angels that are subverting and controlling anything. I mean, even God is not trying to control anyone. God just created the system for us to play a part in, and the system is balanced so perfectly to where it corrects itself anytime anything steps out of line or anything steps outside of the system. Um, People like to talk about the spiritual war between angels and demons and how there's like a bigger aspect to it. Well, it's not really bigger or outside of ourselves. It's an internal battle. We all have our own angels and demons and that spiritual war that's happening within. And so the more that we do the work and cleanse our body and purify our thoughts and strip away from all of these sources that demons feed off of, which is our ego, which is our left brain, then that side has so much less power and so much less hold over us, which is the whole point of this as well. It is end times for that left brain dominated world. So it's playing out micro to macro wherever you look. This is all playing out. It's all happening. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there.
Well, my last question, do you really believe that I always say the central administration for this Rome is actually in Antarctica? You think they already have cleaned everything out there too?
It's hard to say what's truth about Antarctica or not, considering it is an ice wall, and the records from Captain Cook were that you couldn't really get into it at all. But I know there's a lot of discussion around secret bases and things in Antarctica or the ice wall or whatever. Um, so I don't know. I have no idea what's going on there, but I just know that with moving forward, we have to demand transparency at literally every single level. So if there's any organization, country, group, whatever that is not providing full transparency into everything that's going on, then we as the people have to take it into our own hands and do something about it. So hopefully with the disclosure of the everything that's kept in the Vatican archives in the library, we'll get to see all that. But I'm talking like I want to see everything in the Vatican archives be put on PDF or wherever and distributed worldwide. like immediately, as quickly as possible, because there can't be any truth that's hidden. There can't be any information, nothing occulted. Occultare just means to hide in Latin, and we just have to make sure that there's nothing hidden from anyone. Full transparency, 100%.
Well, thank you, Justin. Thank you especially for serving God and for taking your time for all of us. Thank you.
Of course, brother. Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, random, can I ask what this wall is? I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't cut him off.
Oh no, you're fine.
It's all good.
Yeah, so
I've heard of the wall and I've heard of Antarctica, but if you could just small, like cliff notes.
yeah,
Sorry.
so we live on a level plane, level Earth. It is a disk. It's a disk shaped, and it's just essentially,
Flat Earth, right?
yeah, it's essentially
Okay.
expanding outward from the center pole. And I mean, if you think of it like if you were standing beside a pond and there were islands on the pond, and you're standing on that edge of the pond. Well, all of the Earth is that pond, and those islands are the continents, and that edge that you're standing on is the ice wall. And what's beyond that, we're not so sure. It's unclear how far it goes. By I feel it just continues on infinitely, but it's just expanding layers of this physical reality. But as far as what's within the Earth as we know, it is the ice wall, which is they call Antarctica, but it circles the whole pond, all the oceans and all the continents, um, and we're living within it. And life emanates inwards from outwards. It starts within. So the center pole, which no one's allowed to travel to suspiciously, is where it all begins. That's the center of the torus field because it's all this magnetic torus. And that's why, when people say that it is a globe, it's not 100% wrong because it does create a torus field, and that's how magnetism works. But as far as the Earth itself and the plane that we live on, it is very level and stationary. It is flat. I mean, it's not like flat is an incorrect term because it's obviously not flat. Like there are mountains and terrain and things like that. So that I feel like that's a weaponized term to get people to disregard it, but it is very level. It's always on the level. Water is level. It always finds a level place. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. You said something about Cook. Can you give me a full name? I'd love to look more into it.
James Cook. He like went around. I forget when, but a couple hundred years ago or whenever, he was determined to find an inlet into Antarctica, and he wasn't quite. I don't know if he fully understood what this landmass was, or maybe he did, but he took several voyages to try and find, and it was just circling Antarctica or the ice wall and could not find any inlet anywhere. So it was just a solid ice wall all the way around with, yeah, can't get in there. And, they don't really allow people to travel to Antarctica unless you're on an official tour, and who knows what little special area they take people to that's like curated to what they want people to see. But it's very, they keep people away from it very strategically.
That is so crazy that like I've never even, I mean, I've heard parts of it, but I've never heard that part of it.
Yeah.
So I've never really believed the flat earth part because I didn't hear all the knowledge and the information about it. That's definitely something I'm gonna go look into. Okay, thanks. Love you guys. Bye. Sorry again.
Yeah, no worries. If you want a great documentary that was just released, I would check out the documentary called Level. It's on Eric Dubé's channel, which if you don't know Eric Dubé, he's another fantastic researcher on the Level Earth, and he goes into a lot of great things otherwise.
Can
But
you spell his last name for me? D-U-B.
Dubay.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
Check
Like
out.
I feel like I hit walls sometimes. I look for as much information and as many people or as many voices, but at some point you hit a wall, no pun intended,
Yeah. Well,
on more people to get information from on the
right.
internet.
Right. Yeah. And people who speak the full truth are few and far between. But Eric Dubay is one of those who speaks the full truth, and he's a great resource. And that documentary is on his YouTube. He just posted it recently. But it's a great one. It's a great one to introduce the topic on the level Earth, and to show anyone else who's curious too.
Sweet, awesome, thank you. I'm just
You're
gonna look
welcome.
his name up on YouTube. Hopefully that'll bring it up, or the
Yeah,
word level. Thanks, guys. Have
it
a great
should.
night again. Bye
Yep,
bye.
you too.
Hey, Justin, it's Gary again.
Hey, Gary.
Just on the same topic of the level Earth, I had an insight the other day. I was meditating, feet on the ground, facing the sun, looking into the sun, and I started thinking about this whole level Earth. And you just mentioned Torus field, and I had this vision of that the wall itself, beyond the wall, is a continuation of the Torus field, where it just loops back in on itself like a magnetic field, going
Hmm.
around, and there's basically life all along that field coming back in on itself again. And I just wanted to share that because maybe it'll spark some other insight to people that maybe something like that's going on beyond the wall. Have you ever had any thoughts or seen anything like that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because there are there are some maps you can find and some accounts you can find that say that it just continues infinitely after the fact. And so the main torus field that's around this plane, it does encapsulate and stop with the ice. And so the majority of life sustaining support from the Earth is within that primary torus field. But expanding outwards from there is just infinite layers of sort of torus field expansion, just waves of energy that are going outward. And the land and the water and everything does continue past that point by some maps that I've seen. But the further away you get from the center pole, from the central life-giving properties, the more difficult it is to sustain life. Um, and I've heard it compared that some people say that this is what they refer to as like other planets, is like Mars and Venus and Jupiter and whatever else is it's not actually those, or like there are the celestial bodies, but then they compare like the climate and landscape to these layers of Earth or whatever you'd term for it after the ice wall and after you get out of it. But I don't know. I don't know, and it'll be an exciting thing to kind of dig into and see what else lies out there.
Very exciting, very exciting. Can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, good thought though.
And thank you. And also on the planets, let's say Jupiter, for example, I was at a observatory a decade or so ago with the kids, and they let us look in the telescope, and we could see Jupiter and its four moons, and never thought much about it. But I'm thinking about it now because of the moons and the planets, and so the moon and the planets and the sun and all that are having a different perspective. How do you see, let's say, a planet like Jupiter with its four moons? Is that real? Is that
I don't have a telescope that I've seen the four moons of Jupiter to know, but I know that all of the orbs suspended in the firmament above are just lights of different degree, and they are they're essentially just like concentrated patterns of frequency emitted onto us. So that's why astrology is such a powerful science. It is the true science because when you study these frequency emitters and what they're doing to this plane and everyone on it, you can really uncover the sort of celestial power that they have. I mean, they are yeah, I mean they're very powerful and they work in tandem in different ways, and it's always keeping things interesting. It's just like God's clock always shifting to make sure that there's no stagnation within the creation, because stagnation is the antithesis of this one infinite consciousness that we're all connected to. That all it wants to do is just to continue to expand and grow. And so it wants to keep things interesting. It doesn't want things to just be complacent and stagnate. So that clock that's always shifting is a way to just always keep that perpetual stimulation within the experiment that we help to design and play a part in. But as far as Jupiter's moons, if they did show up on a telescope and I saw them, I mean, I imagine they would just be a layer of that particular entity shining and providing some sort of flavor to its frequency that's emitted here on this plane. because I mean that's what they all are. So
Yeah, very, very interesting. Because I went to look, like, I'm having these insights a lot lately, or these visions or whatnot, which is fantastic. And it's, I've been on this Frugarian diet, I'd say 90% over the last few months, and then more vegan prior to that. And so the body's becoming clean and clear, a little bit of urine therapy and whatnot. And it's the body, I'm 60 years old as of a week ago, and feeling amazing.
nice.
No aches or pains, and skin is glowing and all that jazz, right? But I went and looked up Jupiter to see if I could see the picture that I saw when I looked through that telescope. Only CGI. I can't find anything
Yep.
real, like
Right.
anything what I saw, and I'm wondering what they showed me was actually real, because now there's questions about what you're being shown to propagate the agenda,
Right. Yeah. I mean, if it was an official telescope rig,
Yeah, it
like
was the
you never know.
yeah
You never know.
University of Toronto. It was the University of Toronto telescope. So
Yep.
interesting. Okay, thanks again.
You're welcome. All right. Is there someone who hasn't spoken yet today that would like to hop on and share, have a question? Anyone got anything to share? Want to get into any topics?
I just wanted to say one thing,
Please.
because many people are like afraid in the world of atomic bomb, atomic energy. I just think, I don't know because I don't know anything, but I think that's because everything is the satanic opposite in this world. So if you take a mirror, you always see like the truth. So if they tell us atomic energy is very, very dangerous, I think it's the opposite, because atomic energy, the way they explain to us, is rather energy, but just hidden in plain sight. So I don't believe that really atomic bombs, for example, exist. Because if you look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, people live there, even though they tell us if there's like atomic bomb, people couldn't have been living there for at least 1,000 years. So I just question that,
Yeah, I mean, I haven't researched into that in too much, but I know Charlie has mentioned that there are no such thing as atomic bombs, and given that that whole story is so pushed, it's so much like such a a societal story that's pushed. Really do have a lot of doubt that they do exist, just from that example alone. But yeah, I don't yeah, I'd have to agree with you. All right. Anyone else? If not, I'll probably go ahead and sign off.
Sorry, Justin, it's Gary one more time.
Hey, Gary.
If a person was going to move to Mexico, did Charlie do a show on that? Because he just packed his bags, I don't know how long ago, in the last 5 years or so. And what was the process for getting there? Was there ever a show done on that if
I
a
don't
person was interested?
I don't think they've done any sort of concrete shows on that process. I think it was longer than that ago when they moved. But from what I've learned from them, it was pretty much just pack up and go, and then just trust that everything worked out. And yeah, he said it was quite an adventure, but it worked out, and they got where they needed to. But there are lots of resources out there to figure out like how to move it. And Marie, she's done it more recently, so it's a fairly simple process. I think all you have to do for the most part to become like a permanent resident is you have to prove that you have a certain amount of income or prove that you have a certain amount of money in savings. Um, and that's with the older system. So with where we're headed to and how everything's transitioning, I can't imagine it's going to be that restrictive at some point moving forward. For me, like I'm going, it's really easy to go on a travel visa. You just have to go across the border and you get 6 months, and I think you can extend that to a year pretty easily just by paying another fine or fee. And then to extend that past then, you just have to spend like one night back in the US and then you can do it all over again. Um, so that's what I'm going to do in the meantime, and I'm just hoping that everything kind of settles down with the system and it becomes a lot more freely to travel very quickly because as soon as this all starts, I mean, it's just everything that doesn't make sense, everything that doesn't fit with God's laws is going to go away, and travel restrictions and border restrictions and all that bullshit is very much like against us as sovereign beings and us as children of God on this earth that we are born in, and we have every right to live wherever we want to. So that'll go quickly.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I wonder how accepting Mexico is of immigration in general.
I,
Um,
like I said, I think that the money thing is all that they really are concerned about. From what I've looked into, it's as long as you just prove that you're not going to be a burden on the society, then I think that's all they really care about.
and just for your own personal, are you going to live around Charlie, or are you just going to see where your body takes you, sort of thing, in Mexico? Or
I'm gonna go see them, and I'll probably have like I really like the idea of helping these communities kind of get started, and so we've got around Charlie. That we're going to be working on. And I'll be helping a lot with that. But then I know Santos is getting his school started, and I want to go check that out and see what's going on there. Marie potentially will be starting something in Oaxaca if they can find something. So there could be potentially 3 different locations of communities starting up, and I like to travel. I like driving around, so I could easily see myself hopping back and forth, and maybe even having like a like I don't know, like a small little hut in each space, just where I could come settle whenever I needed to. But I'm very much a traveler. I like traveling.
yeah, you don't need much. You just need space for a bed.
Exactly.
Very good. Okay, big hug. Love you.
Yeah, love you too, brother.
Okay, cheers.
All right, Alex, did you have something else to say?
It's funny he asked my questions. So like I'm actually looking at the map as we're talking.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, where is everything? And like, I mean, I know certain areas. So anyway, yeah, I think that's a conversation I think is the main conversation. I'm really interested to hear about locations and where things are happening, where to go.
Yeah, I
I
mean
think we're
it's gonna be it hasn't been broadcasted too too detailed because there's not much detail yet. Like nothing's there to get going at the moment, but it's all just a vision. And so as soon as that vision starts to unravel, it's very much going to be distributed and broadcasted everywhere to get people in the right places and get help with that. But I know initially, especially with near Charlie and Colleen, like it's gonna take a lot of work. So I do want to make that clear that for anyone thinking that they can just come there and it's a resort and just hang out and sit by the fire and listen to Charlie all night, like
yeah.
it's not gonna be that. It's gonna be like who's ready to do some work and like help with animals and help build, who's got building experience that we can start building some houses, who's got whatever else to get this thing up and going, because it's going to take a lot of gusto at the very beginning to get everything set and start building some homes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And find land and stuff. Well, there's probably people who want to invest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of
Yeah.
us want to invest.
We'll all be able to contribute in the way that we can, and if it's financially, if it's physically, or both, or however, um, there'll be lots of room for that. But this should also be going in tandem with, Nisara rolling out and the silver bust and all of that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot of influx of um, means to make this happen exactly as it needs to, which is exciting.
That's really, really. So you feel? Does your gut, your intuition tell you we're in, it's going to happen this year, or are we years out? Like, I
No.
just never know the timing anymore.
Yeah, it's got to be this year. There's no way that it could keep going. There's no way that it could keep going that long. I'm not getting tied up in it. I don't know exactly when. It could be a few more months. But I'd say
Mhm.
by the end of the year is like a really conservative say. But this because it's only heating up and it's like potential energy. You can't you it's got to blow. Like there's no just subsiding and going away. It has to give in. And you look at what's happening within just the financial markets and what's going on with silver right now. Like they can't even keep up with the orders of people who are demanding their physical silver and who are buying silver. So as soon as that market gets revealed that that market has been manipulated for so long, then all of a sudden the inflation scam and the Federal Reserve scam is exposed and the financial system collapses. And I don't want to alarm anyone because I don't think anyone's going to suffer from this except for those who were criminally like making the system so corrupt. But that's going to get things moving. It's going to get things rolling. Where all of a sudden we've got to be, okay, what do we do now? Oh, let's look at this NESARA plan that we had tucked away that we've never done before. Let's have a debt jubilee. Let's get everyone on the same page, same playing field. So it'll just be things like that that'll make it all happen. But the thing with the Q plan and everything that's gone, and it's not date based. It's not like set to specific dates where things need to happen. It's event based to where certain events need to happen before the next event does happen. So the financial collapse is a huge event that needs to happen, and after it does, then everything else starts rolling. And same thing with the election fraud and what's happening in Maricopa County and this whole 40 days of the investigation and how it's biblical and all this other sorts of stuff. But it's just these one thing after another just building on each other that there's no way that it could keep building for that long before something major happens and it has to all start unfolding. I just don't know exactly when.
So you're okay. So you're thinking the same as I am. So there is going to be, I don't even want to say it out loud. There really is going to be this big financial meltdown thing.
Oh
And then
yeah.
after that, so we got to live through that first. And
Yeah.
then after that comes the,
But I don't think it's going to be really painful for anyone other than it might seem scary. I see that as another potential because we were talking about the nuclear scare earlier. Like I see that as a potential to wake people up, to get people to pay attention. But I also see having like a day or two where people are like, I can't even go to the ATM. Like I don't think it would take longer than that to get people to pay attention to. But that would be an easy way that's not violent. There's no bloodshed needed for that to get people to wake up and pay attention if all of a sudden like all of their bank accounts were frozen or they couldn't get anything anywhere and it's like, well, holy shit, what's going on? Why can I not access my bank account? Who's in charge of all this money? Why is it, and then it just gets people to ask questions about the whole fake system that we are part of. Whereas, the white hats are very much in charge. They're in control. They're not going to let anything happen to actually hurt anyone, but it's just a way for people to realize like, oh wow, we were living in a debt usury system where where everything was fake and it was all controlled by these central bankers. And that system has to collapse. There's no way to revive it. There's no way to keep it going, but we've got this parallel system that's going to be, asset backed. That's going to be based on gold and silver and other assets. And that that reality is going to, pick up very quickly as an easy solution and transition everyone over and to where no one has to suffer, but it is a very like jarring, jolting, awakening moment. That's what, it's just speculation. I don't know for sure if it's going to happen that way, but I do know that the financial system has to collapse at some point or another. Like it is inevitable.
but not in a way where, like, obviously if you're in the markets, that's another story. But if you have your money stocked away, you don't lose, like the banks don't go insolvent. Like,
No, I don't even, I think even people who have 401ks tied to the market, like I think they're still going to be protected to some degree or another. I think really the only people that are going to suffer are like the big Wall Street dudes who have just been spending money out of nothing, the hedge fund people, the brokers, like anyone who's making just a shit ton of money and not providing anything to society is going to suffer in that, and probably not to some crazy degree, depending on what level you are, unless you were involved in actual criminal activity. Um, but normal everyday people, everything's going to be fine. Everything, like they've been tracking where everyone's accounts are and how everyone is, and everyone's going to be fine. Now, people who invest into precious metals and assets like silver, they're going to do a lot better because that's been the hints that the white hats have been dropping over and
right,
over and over
right,
again, like, hey, get involved with
absolutely.
this because, and it's just going to help propel the people who were paying attention to have a head start to creating the new earth, the next version, after the fact. Not that anyone's going to suffer, but they'll just have a little bit extra gusto to help spread that wealth and share it around and get things
Right,
started from a holistic standpoint.
right, got it. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the hints are pretty clear. And, so yeah, I was just concerned about like if you have a lot of assets and you just, I don't know, it's just scary. That's all. If the banks go insolvent, but
There's
um,
nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. There's it like there are going to be aspects that might seem scary, and if we don't keep the faith and know that this is all God's plan, it can certainly drive us into that fear. But nothing nothing bad is going to happen to any of us.
so Justin, I actually have one last question. Then this would be really helpful. Is it okay if I ask just
Sure.
one question
Yeah,
about what you just said?
go for it.
I'm on my phone. Sorry. So what you just said, I think the hardest part for me that has happened during this, because my whole thing is, this is who I am. Like I have been like I've relied on my intuition, my God. Anyway, so for me, that's the crack is learning about all this over the years. And I mean the recent years. I've known about a lot of stuff for a long time, but not certain things, which I'm not gonna we could go into that, but certain things have cracked me in a way that like how could this be God's plan? So here's I know you're gonna this is like a very long conversation and this is a whole, another video or whatever, but I think that's where I struggle on and off, where it's weird because I never used to on that. But it's like I think I have like a child, not childish, naive sense of like God's plan being like, well, there's nobody harming children. And like, I mean, like, like it's just, I can't, how do how is, I can't, like, it's been very hard. And watching people die from big pharma, and this is what I do for a living, so I help people get off of all that, and so it's very painful to watch as year after year after year after year after year after year people are being worse. It's worse every year. It's not getting better. People think, oh, it's getting better. So I always tell my community, like, it's not getting better. This is not getting better. It's getting worse as far as the mainstream. And but I still felt a connection to God until March 15th when they locked us in our homes and I learned about everything, like the latest stuff. And I was like, I go in. What I'm trying to say is, Justin, I go in and out. So my question for you, it's not black and white for me. I'm in and out. I'm all over the place with it, with my feeling like I trust the. So my question for you is, I think I'm asking for your personal journey with trusting God, because that's all that matters to me is someone's personal. How did you
Sure.
find trust?
Yeah, I mean, it's been something that I've never really, because ultimately every fear, if you keep expanding on that fear, like, oh, I'm worried that give me a worry that you've got. What's something that you're worried about?
But all my friends and family are going to die of vaccine, issues.
Yeah, so that one doesn't even take very long, but it ultimately you can just you can just keep asking, well, and then what, and then what, and then what with that, and it all comes back to fear of death, a fear of death of some degree or another. You know, a fear of like being isolated and dying alone, and so these are all we can root every single fear to this root fear of the fear of death. So personally, I identified that as the root cause of fear, and I've done a great job at letting go of that fear of death. And when you can really tap into that and let go of that fear of death, no matter what, whether it's death of myself or death of another, it is the same. Death is nothing to fear. It is, and that comes just from that knowingness, that deep inner knowingness that this is not the end. There's no end to this. I am.
Well, no, Justin, I'm not afraid of death. I mean,
Well, but
I've
you're
been.
you're afraid of your family dying. Your family,
No, I'm afraid. No, I'm just grieving. I'm just feel like I'm going to lose them. That's all.
I know, and
Just don't want to lose them.
yeah, right, and it's hard. I know that. There's nothing easy about that. There's nothing easy to see friends and family suffer, and so don't take this the wrong way. It's a let's do some breathing. We haven't done some breathing in a while. Let's do some breathing. So, can you put your feet
Yeah,
feet
yeah, of course.
feet flat on the ground?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to explain it. So we're going to do a 4-4-8 breath, which means we're going to go in through the nose and hold for 4 seconds. And then we're going to do, and then we're going to do out through the mouth for 8 seconds. So in for 4, hold for 4, and then out for 8. So let's do it together. So inhale through the nose, hold, and then out through the mouth. In through the nose, hold, and out through the mouth. One more. In through the nose, hold, and out through the mouth. Okay. Yeah, breath is very important. It's a good thing to help recalibrate and rebalance. Um, so, with fear and with, I guess, just going back to your question about my personal journey, I have never been one to fear much. Um, I've never really been one to worry about much. I've never really felt like I gain much from that. So I've always kind of taken that observer standpoint to where when I let myself dip into those worries and fears and um, I I don't gain anything. Like there's nothing that adds value to me or my experience or anything. So I guess I've always just kind of recognized that as a something to let go of. And it really is a letting go. It is that ultimate trust fall, that ultimate surrender that God is here and God's always been there, and we were just the ones who decided to separate, and God's just asking us to come home. We were the ones who decided to leave, and God just wants us to come back. And so when I can trust that this whole experience is just designed to get me to grow and to get me to remember and to get me to experience. But ultimately, I'm always going to go back home. There's no absence of God. Then I can trust this fully, and I can trust that everything is happening for a reason, and everything is happening for me to learn and to see and to grow from. And that aspect really helps me to step away from this victim mentality that things are happening to me and that it's all random and just by chance. Um, because there's truly no such thing as chance. There's no such thing as random. It's all divinely organized and designed. So with that, it helps with that sort of I don't know, clarity around what's happening now, and trusting that it's all happening for the right reason. And to go back to what you were saying about how things are getting worse, I would challenge that, because things aren't getting worse. You're just gaining awareness into how far we had sunk. You're gaining awareness into how far we had gone away, and the reality behind the illusion that was portrayed. So it's not getting worse. You're just seeing everything with a fresh perspective, with new eyes. It's like that movie They Live. You're putting on the glasses. You're seeing
Right.
you're
Right.
seeing the reality. So it can seem worse, because when you're comparing to your past and what it was like when you were more deeply within the illusion, it can seem worse, but it's really not. And the fact that you are seeing it clearly means it's only getting better. The fact that all of this stuff is being uncovered, the fact that all of this stuff, this truth that's very uncomfortable to hear about, the fact that that's coming out into our reality and that we're able to see it means that it's getting a lot better. It means that this kind of information is leaking, which means that this black magic spell that they've had on us for so long is wearing off. The veil is lifting. So
Right. And I think that, like Justin, that so I'm realizing as you're talking and I'm breathing and I'm actually tapping. I don't know if you know what EFT is, but
Mhm.
that's what I
Yeah.
do. And I realized, you know what? The loneliness and the loss has been my trigger, my trauma, and it's triggered me into obviously being in my head, not my heart and my body.
Right.
And I've lost my practice because of it. So I've gone into my head in 2020, um, because I'm a super intense researcher. I have a lot of education in research, and I'm good at it actually. And so I've started. That's why I'm on here the way I am, and I had a big account on to friends. Honestly, anyway, whatever. So I've been in my head too much, which is not me, right?
Mhm.
That's not really what I do anymore, right? And so, but I did it. And I just realized as you were talking, like, I need my practice again. So for anyone who's listening to this, because I know so many people have told me the loneliness thing is a trigger. And we really need, like, I'm glad I found you guys. I'm going to stay here. Like, obviously, I'm going to be connecting.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. And because I just can't, I mean, this is such a rare group of people. Even in the, like, obviously in the truth community, it's
Mhm.
very rare to actually, anyway. So, um, I'm going to go back into some of my practices more and get off of research mode.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, I would highly recommend that, because it's a as interesting as researching the truth can be, it is ultimately a mind trap.
it is.
It's a way for our ego to step in and to give us another piece of candy, tie another carrot at the end of the stick, and get us to get away from the true work, what we're here to do, which is that going within. Because you still discover, and don't get me wrong, there are aspects of research that you can complement that internal journey that do help a lot. But when it becomes the main focus and it takes away from the true task at hand, which is that going within, then it is absolutely an egoic trap. So yeah, that's brilliant that you said that, and I would highly recommend leaning into that fully, because that's, as much as we needed to have this sort of period of activation, and as much as you needed to go through all of that, as uncomfortable as it was, you needed to go through all of that, having your family and your friends stripped away from you, because, and I'm speaking from personal experience, but I was relying on my relationships for who I was. I was relying on my external reality to define who I am and how I operate in this world. And that's ultimately not going to serve me. So I had to have all of that peeled away, as painful as it was, so that I could refine myself and step into who I truly am and own myself, own my power, and operate within that, and know that I am a child of God and know that I'm connected to God at all times. And so you had to go through that process. And the research bit was the awakening process. And it was helpful to activate you to a degree. But it's also very, very important to realize, and I'm glad that you said it, to realize where it only gets us so far and where we have to let go of that. Because it's this continual, like it never stops. Like it's not like we figure out the one way to keep growing and it's just like, oh, that's it. I'm just going to do this forever. It's like, no, we keep growing and our ego keeps growing as well, and the whole journey keeps expanding in front of us and it's always changing, and so we have to be very fluid and recognize when it's time to let something else go, and so that we can continue growing. And that's where that clarity and that discernment are so vital, and that's why, having that clean vessel so that we truly do hear the message from God at all times really does help us to stay on that path wherever it leads us, because God's always leading us on that path. um, but I think it's no accident that you're saying that out loud and that you're committing to that, because it's probably very, very needed in this portion. And I know that me personally, 2020 was all about research. 2021, I have let go of the majority of my paying attention to the movie that's playing out. I tune in a little bit, but I'm very, very, very calculated with how much I do pay attention to it and how many details I get involved with, because it's so much more about the big picture and so much more about both the big picture and going within. So yeah, all that to say, I'm glad you said that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. But yeah, we're here for you, and that's what's so beautiful about this family is there is that support. So if you can't reach me, there's so many beautiful brothers and sisters within this community that are always there, and we're all going through something very similar. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. Don't ever hesitate to share. Um, if you just need someone to talk to, you can find it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is great. This is
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is great. All right,
Yeah.
sister. I love you so much. I truly do. I'm so glad
Thank
you're here. So
you.
glad you found us again.
Love you too. I love this. I just love this. I'm so glad you guys are here. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. It's so great. Well, I can't believe it. It's so great. Really
Yeah,
great.
it's perfect, and
Really
you
good.
and you deserve it. You deserve to be loved in the most powerful ways possible, and you deserve to have community like this. So, thank you for doing the work, because we are just your mirror. This community is just a mirror based on the work that you've done internally, and it could not show itself if you had not grown to the space where you are. So, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for serving.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Justin. I'm glad you've done it too.
Yeah, me too.
I know, right? It all led somewhere.
All right. So I do need to get running. If someone has a burning question, we can take one more if someone hasn't spoken yet today that would like to chime in. Otherwise, I do need to run. Anyone who hasn't chimed in would like to say something? All right. I'll go ahead and close this one today. Again, I'll leave the voice chat up and running. So if y'all want to stay behind after I turn off the live, you're more than welcome to keep chatting. And for anyone in the group, if you do ever want these voice chats to be started up, you just have to find someone who's an admin to start it up, and they don't even have to stay in it. They just have to boot it up, and I'm not sure what the timeout is on it, but as long as someone's in the chat, I believe it stays up. Maybe, I don't know. Still figuring out Telegram, but. But yeah, I love y'all so much, and I'm always so grateful to have these conversations. We always uncover some really great things. So thank you for showing up, and thank you for sharing. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I love y'all so much. Yeah, and until next time, until we meet again, which will be tomorrow for the Q&A with me and Charlie, and we've got a whole bunch of family members jumping on there too. So that'll be great. Stay tuned for that.
Thank you. Bless you.
All
Be
right,
safe.
guys. You too.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Emily.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Love y'all.
Love you too.